What's up, guys? I am talking today about my love for Primoz Roglic. The last stage at this year's Volta a Catalunya kind of reminded me of how exciting he is. He's kind of the interesting mystery of the big four top Grand Tour riders. I feel like Primoz is kind of that like oddball mystery guy. He doesn't necessarily ride in the same way that Tadej does or Jonas or not necessarily a Grand Tour rider, but Mathieu van der Poel in the Spring Classics. He typically does not have these dramatic sort of, crushing victories. He has this slow cat and mouse kind of tit for tat approach, and I really enjoy it because it's kind of atypical for the time where we see these just prodigy talents that are so strong that honestly they just don't need to have this really sharpened tactical approach. And so it's cool to see Primoz really be one of the last big Grand Tour riders that, in my opinion, one of the reasons he has this really interesting kind of almost confusing, or not confusing, but when you watch him race, you're always like, is he on form? I mean, he looks pretty good. You're never quite sure if he's going to win, and he manages to pull it off by seconds. So he's winning races by 5, 10, 20 seconds. I don't know what the ultimate time gap was at the last stage, but it's very different from watching, again, Tadej or Jonas or Mathieu van der Poel just smash the competitors. And I really like that because, I think it has to do with maybe Primoz not being quite as strong as the rest of the riders, and knowing that he can't necessarily just rely on brute strength. And instead of that, he has to be clever and tactical. And it really does seem like he gets the competitors into this chess game, and it makes for interesting racing, and you never quite know what to expect. And so it's, that typical strategy or sort of characteristic of Primoz that made that last big sort of long range attack all the more exciting. But that is just kind of the appetizer in terms of what I really like about Primoz, and that is his style on the bike. For me, road biking, a big component of my love for the sport is the beauty, not only in terms of the bikes and the racing, but the location they race. A lot of these races are in the most beautiful, breathtaking areas in the world. They've been going on for decades, or even in some cases over 100 years. So the sport for me is really different from any other sport in terms of a big part of my love for it comes from this just timeless beauty, this sense and connection to history, and especially in this day and age where 2 years ago is pretty much treated as though it was 100 years ago. Road biking is this refreshing change of pace from that kind of here today, gone tomorrow mentality that is so common now. But in addition to that, it is the beauty. And Primoz Roglic in that awesome Red Bull Bora team kit, I absolutely love it, the blue and white. I know a lot of the teams are rocking blue and white, so it's kind of like the default. It's probably my favorite team kit on the World Tour. I think it looks superb. The Red Bull Tarmac, I would say the coolest looking bike. Not only is the Tarmac it's got that understated classic look. It hasn't gone the way of, for example, the Colnago, where it's a lot more aggressive and it doesn't quite have that same timeless appeal that, in my opinion, the Tarmac does. And then you paint it in that gorgeous Red Bull livery. It is just, I love it. It doesn't even matter how weak of a rider you are. You get on that bike and you're looking pretty cool. But Primoz in that Aero Tuck, it might be him and Remco that have the most impressive and most sort of poetic speed tucks on the bike. That last attack from 15, 20 kilometers was just beautiful. He is so smooth and effortless on the bike. You can see, especially when he starts to get that swagger, it is just stunning how smooth and fluid and effortless he looks on the bike. No wasted energy, no kind of herky-jerky motions, for lack of a better term. It is just beautiful. When he is on full attack mode, and especially smoke in the field, I just found myself realizing, wow, I love watching this dude ride. He's probably the most stylish rider on the World Tour. I'm curious to hear what your guys' opinions are. He kind of has, Tadej, I would say, is a little bit more upright. Mathieu van der Poel is a little bit bigger of a guy, so he's also very smooth. But it is, I think when you get bigger, like a good example is Mads Pedersen, it becomes a little bit more challenging to be quite as smooth and fluid as a slightly lighter rider. In also, Jonas is another good example where he's also got a impressive, full aggressive aero tuck. But if we're being honest, physique plays a role. It does. And I would say, if we're all being honest, Jonas's physique doesn't, it's not quite as aesthetically pleasing as Remco Evenepoel's, Tadej Pogacar, Mathieu van der Poel, or Primoz Roglic. When you're that lean, let's just be honest, it just doesn't look as good. We're creatures. We like aesthetics in sort of visual beauty. And when you're on the super, super lean end of the spectrum, you give up some in the looks department. But Primoz, that speed tuck, I would say it's only rivaled by Remco Evenepoel, and Remco's got probably just like, that's why they call him the Bullet. His ability to just, it's incredible how talented he is. These dudes are masters at their craft. And it sounds simple, pedaling a bike, but when you see people that haven't spent 10,000 hours doing it, they look so awkward, disjointed, just inefficient. And then you see these top World Tour riders. Tadej's obviously incredible, but again, for me, it's got to be Primoz Roglic. What rider do you find is the most stylish? I know it's kind of subjective. It's different strokes for different folks, but it wasn't really until that it like reminded me, oh wow, I love watching this dude ride, especially when he's just in that full attack mode and feeling it. I don't know how much speed he was carrying into the last couple kilometers, but he was moving. It was awesome, like so exciting. The bike's beautiful. It's going to be really cool to see how this form carries through. He's going to be racing the Giro d'Italia. Obviously, when he goes up against the big dogs, Tadej, Jonas, he's kind of come up short for the past couple of seasons. So it's going to be tough to beat those dudes. But it's also going to be really fun to watch him at, again, the Giro d'Italia and whatever other races he does. But I want to hear what you guys think. Agree, disagree. What rider do you find is the smoothest and your favorite to watch on the bike? Because I can tell you, for me, it is Primoz Roglic, especially in that sort of Red Bull livery on that beautiful tarmac. So leave a comment and hope you enjoyed the video.